The music's gone. Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's about 7 o'clock. I do have the pledge that I can share. Becky, it's up to you when you want to start. Looks like most people are here, but we can wait a few more minutes if you want.
I keep trying to do a count, but you keep moving my screen. Do I see Deb? Yep, there she is. I guess we have everybody we're expecting. Did we lose Foster? Did he go out? Nope, there he is. Okay. All right. So we will call the meeting of the Plainville Board of Education to order at 7 o'clock on May 11th. And we have a special Pledge of Allegiance, I understand. Mr. Ross, you can kick it off. Kevin, can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
Yes. Well, there it goes.
Okay.
1 second, sorry.
Okay.
It's not doing what it's supposed to.
Okay. So given that, we can have Mr. White lead us in the pledge? Muted.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Somehow we ended up with making that work. Thank you very much. All right.
My voice.
This meeting is accessible via YouTube if you go on to the school district website. And we also did collect some citizens' comments there, I believe, as well. So with that, we'll go right on to special presentations and Mr. LePage.
Yes, thank you, Chairwoman Tyrell. I appreciate it. Welcome everyone, I guess everyone virtually. So thank you for joining us tonight for a very special Board of Education meeting. And we get to start out with some really exciting and very special honors. So at this time, it's my great pleasure to honor and acknowledge two very special award recipients this evening, our top two students from the class of 2020, who each represent an impressive collection and combination of intelligence, creativity, skill, and positive character. I wish we could be together for this recognition tonight and to hand these top students a nice certificate, but those certificates will unfortunately need to be delivered in a different fashion this year. However, I do want to offer my sincere congratulations to our Plainville High School class of 2020 valedictorian, Helena Yowen, and salutatorian, Christopher St. Lawrence. Each deserves to have their record of achievements and accomplishments heard, and I'm going to ask their principal, Principal Carl Johnson, to share a summary of these incredible students and their achievements and accomplishments during their 4 years at Plainville High School. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. LePage. You know, I wish we were in person to be able to do this and be able to congratulate both of you on your outstanding academic records at PHS. And I think also importantly, all you've done for our school and the legacy that you left at PHS. So first we'll start with Christopher St. Lawrence, our salutatorian. Chris has had an extraordinary academic career while a student at PHS. As salutatorian, Chris has the second highest GPA of his 158 classmates. He has received gold or silver honor roll for every quarter during his high school career. He has continually challenged himself with some of the most rigorous classes at PHS. During his time here, he has taken 12 AP or ECE courses. He will have earned over 33 credits when he graduates this June. Actually more than a full year's worth beyond the required credits for high school. He is a member of the National Honor Society, Spanish National Honor Society, and the Science National Honor Society. He has been awarded the Superintendent's Award, a National Merit Scholarship Commendation for his performance on the PSAT, the CABE Special AV Project Award, was also a Hobie Leadership Conference attendee, and he also received what is called the Governor's Scholarship Award. He has been active in the United Way, the National Ocean Science Bowl team, his church youth group, and most notably, he's donated his extensive knowledge of photography and videography to events throughout the district, especially at PHS. He was a member of the PHS swim team all 4 years, received his varsity letter in the sport, and received numerous CCC All Academic Awards. Chris is also an accomplished musician who is a member of the concert band and jazz band for all 4 years. He plans to attend NYU in the fall and to major in film. So Chris, congratulations. All right, next we have Helena Yowen, our valedictorian. Helena has also had quite an extraordinary academic career while at PHS. As valedictorian, Helena has the highest GPA of her 158 classmates. She received gold or silver honor roll every quarter during her PHS career. She has also continually challenged herself, just like Chris, with some of our most rigorous classes at PHS. During her time here, she has taken 9 AP or ECE courses. She will have earned over 29 credits when she graduates this June. Again, almost a full year's worth beyond the required number of credits for a senior. She is vice president of the National Honor Society, president of the French National Honor Society, and a member of the Science National Honor Society. She has been awarded the Superintendent's Award, the Yale Book Award, and the Daughters of the American Revolution Award. She has been active in her church, volunteering in the toddler room there, and was working toward completion of an internship at the New Britain Herald through our field work experience class, and had done over 30 hours there. She is a member of the PHS track and cross country teams for all 4 years. She received her varsity letters in both sports and also received numerous CCC All Academic Awards. She is also an accomplished musician herself, just like Chris, who has been a member of the concert band all 4 years, and also a member of the Plainville Wind Ensemble for the past 2 years. She plans to attend UConn in the fall and focus on a pre-law major, eventually going to law school. So, Helena, congratulations. I'm sure both of you are also very excited. Your photos are already in the display case at PHS. So make sure you check Twitter tomorrow, because I'll be headed into PHS, and we'll make sure we make that, you know, official, because I know that's something both of you will thoroughly enjoy, because I know every year everyone just loves having their photo displayed for a full year. So congratulations to both of you. Again, I can't wait to congratulate you in person real soon.
Thank you, Principal Johnson. And I want to thank Helena and Christopher and their families for joining us this evening to honor them both. It's an amazing accomplishment, and we're very proud of you, and you represent all that Plainville has to offer in our schools at the highest level. So congratulations, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good luck on AP Calc tomorrow.
This is when we usually say you don't have to stay with us for the whole meeting, but it's pretty easy to just turn us off. So feel free to do so. The next part of our recognitions is actually the CABE Leadership Awards. And due to the timing of all things that happened in the closure of school, we're going to do those in the, we're actually going to hold those at the June meeting. And we do have recipients, but we'll name those at the June meeting. So I will end our special recognitions with our Everyday Hero Award. And I want to just give a little background to a change with the Everyday Hero Award. I want to thank Lynn Davis for the idea as we switched to a virtual existence here, and to many heroic actions, and it being really difficult just to name one or two a month. So we opened up the nomination process, and I shared it out with the entire district, and we've really had a flood of Everyday Hero nominees, nominations being made, about 40 since April vacation. And I have to change the system of doing it because it's been a lot of extra emails in addition to the hundreds per day. So I do want to say that it's a wonderful thing to try to keep up with all the positives. And at this time, I just wanted to acknowledge, I will send out a form for a new Everyday Hero virtual edition, so it can be entered that way as we've done in the past. But I do want to say that over the last few weeks, we've honored Terry Colomanico, the top lawn cafeteria worker, who's also a grab-and-go meals server, doing a tremendous job. She had 9 nominations from different teachers and people across the district. So that's the most nominations I think we've ever had, and they were all wonderful. Shannon Murphy, first-year school counselor at the middle school, is doing a tremendous job. I get to see all her positive messages going out to kids every day, and so she had a couple of nominations. Sarah Bailey, a Linden school teacher, was nominated by a couple of her colleagues for all the hard work she's put in the creative problem solving and sharing with her colleagues she's done. Diane LaBelle, a very talented elementary top line grade 4 teacher who had really nice nominations from parents. Lily Corniel, a Wheeler special education teacher. I apologize to Lily for giving a different job title when I sent it out. I think I called her a school psychologist, so I apologize for that, but doing amazing things and serving a lot of those counselor roles as well as special ed teaching. And then just this last Friday, we honored 3 individuals. Principal Andrew Batchelder had received a couple of nominations for his leadership over at Wheeler, and all the stories that he's reading and sharing online in the morning messages, like all of our principals are doing in different ways. And Kim Rodriguez, another school counselor from the middle school, who a parent said goes above and beyond and has really made a difference to her son. And then finally, Betsy Neve, wonderful first grade teacher over at Toflon. And like I said, it's kind of a random selection. We had about 40 nominations in the last about 3.5 weeks. So we'll continue to honor everyone each week as we move forward. And that concludes my special recognitions.
All right, thank you very much. That's going to bring us to the approval of minutes. We have minutes of April 20th here to be approved. Can I get a motion?
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes of the regular Board of Education meeting on April 20th, 2020.
I have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second for Crystal. Any corrections or comments on the minutes? All right, hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. That passes. That brings us to citizens' comments. I understand we did have something come in. Is that the case, Mr. LePage?
We did have one comment come in on the website that it was, let me just find it really quickly. I'm sorry. And I can share it with all the board members, but the topic was on if any new positions have been added to the district, and if so, what they are, what they were, or where they are, and students may need, just a comment that students may need more support when they return to school. So just kind of looking at that and how how's the new school budget support students in the 2021 school year after all they've gone through a distance learning. So and then it was said, thank you for all your hard work. So it was a positive comment, just looking at what supports are going to be in place, what new positions are in the new budget. And I would say that, I don't know if you'd like me to address that at this time, Chair Tyrell, or?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
As long as we all get a copy of that, that's fine.
Sure. That was the essence of and I just received it prior to the board meeting. It came in just about 5 minutes before the meeting. So I'm sorry, that's not true. It came in. I'll send it to you. That's the only comment that we had, though.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
That brings us to our council liaison, Mrs. Puglisi. It's nice to see you. You're able to join us because we don't have meetings on the same night this time. So I'll turn the floor over to you and you can give us what information you would like.
Great, thank you. This is Kathy Puglisi speaking, 50 West Broad Street, also reporting from the town council. Thank you for a little bit of time. I just want to cover a few things the council has taken care of since our last council meeting on May 4th. First one has to do with our Robertson Airport improvement to a taxiway bid. We had put out a bid to do some paving at the airport. On April 23rd, 7 bids were received to reconstruct the taxiway at Robertson Airport. The bid was, we received 2 bids, and the job was awarded to Telcon in the amount of $2,389,944 to do the runway improvements. An application has been filed with the FAA to provide funding for the project. Typically, the reimbursement rate for the project is normally 90% from the federal government. However, the FAA informed the airport sponsors that this project will most likely receive 100% reimbursement as a result of the CARES Act. Work is expected to occur in late summer or early fall after the grant has been awarded. So that was good news that we're going to have it funded 100% from the federal government to get the work done. We appreciated that. We also were informed that the town is going to continue its participation with the BRRFOC, which is the Bristol Resource Recovery Operating Committee. The purpose of this intercommunity agreement was to have the town work to manage our solid waste and to construct and operate the Bristol Resource Recovery Facility. We are members of this with Berlin, Brantford, Bristol, Burlington, Heartland, New Britain, Plymouth, Prospect, Seymour, Southington, Warren, Washington, and Wolcott. We've been involved in this for over 20 years, and this is how we process our waste. So we did sign an agreement with them to continue on with the same project. We can leave this agreement at any time if the town feels it would be appropriate. We also, as you are probably mostly aware, we voted on the fiscal year 2021 budget. The general government was $23,354,931. The Board of Education was $39,144,267. for a total budget of $62,499,198. This budget represents no tax increase. In other words, the mill rate will stay the same. However, it does reflect a spending increase of 1.16% or $718,376. So at this point, the budget has been agreed upon unanimously. There will not be a townwide budget vote due to the restrictions of COVID and large gatherings of people. So we are pretty much finished with the budget unless something completely unforeseen happens, but the council did approve that that budget with that mill rate. And one last item that has been in the news, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention in case you weren't aware of it. Several months ago, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved a site plan for the construction of a 252,000 square foot building on property currently owned by FCP2 LLC. This is located on the southwest drive of Northwest Drive. The purpose of the building is for cold storage of food that will be distributed to regional grocery stores. The facility will create approximately 119 new jobs. The company in charge of this is called Americold. And what's interesting, and this is a significant project for the town of Plainville. What it's going to look like is the project is going to move forward and will generate approximately $850,000 in new taxes in the first year, with a slightly less than the current second and third. They are slightly less than the second and third highest taxpayers, Telcon and Valley Water. The property has been vacant for about 20 plus years due to restrictions on the development of this project. But it is it's a significant project for our town. You'll see a lot of activity out there, and it would be probably one of the major projects that has occurred in the past many years for Plainville. So we were very excited that Americold chose Plainville. They had some other options in mind, but we were able to help them through the process, help them through some of the permitting they had to go through. And they think Plainville is going to be a great resource for them to build this new facility. So we're very happy about that. And that would be it. Unless anybody has some questions for me, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Any questions for Mrs. Puglisi? All right. We thank you very much for your report.
You're welcome.
That leads us to the superintendent's report. Now, I know everybody's looking at this report and getting very worried because it has so much there, but Steve has a lot to tell us, and I think he's going to have some friends help him out. That's all.
I'm going to get by with a lot of help from my friends, and there is a lot, and there's actually even more than is, some little fill in the blanks between some of the details in there, but we're going to move through it. We're going to give you an update on a few important things that I think will be really informative and important for everyone to know. So I'm going to start by asking Mr. Johnson to join us again and share the work with the Vision of the Graduate and NEASC, and there's been some adjustments made he'll discuss with that regarding the NEASC, perhaps the timing, because they're due for their the big visit next fall. However, I'll let Mr. Johnson speak to that, and also the Vision of the Graduate, which is on the agenda under new business tonight to be voted on, because once that's voted on, there are different steps that need to be taken so that we can spread that great work in a more structured and systemic way throughout the district. All right, so I will stop talking and let Mr. Johnson take over from here with his presentation.
All right, good evening again, everyone. I just wanted to thank Mr. LePage and Mr. Lewandowski and also the Board of Education for allowing me to present tonight. So presenting on two important topics. The first will be an update on our NEASC process, what is considered our decennial visit, which will be coming up on this November, and then also presenting about the Vision of the Graduate, which we've been working on in relation to that NEASC process, but also just as a movement in our school and our district. So Kevin, if you can switch to the next slide. So I've gone over this before, and I just want to remind everyone, when we had our collaborative conference visit in the fall of 2018, the new NEASC protocol, which looks very different from previous ones, basically starts with a collaborative conference visit about 2 years before your decennial visit. We were one of the first schools in the NEASC Association to have a collaborative conference visit. And so we were kind of early in that process. Out of that initial meeting comes the creation of some priority growth areas. And what's really important about this is that this is a collaborative process between NEASC and the schools. If you remember the old process, it felt much more like a investigation or a judgment or something like that. They've really pushed harder now for this really to be very collaborative. And so out of our collaborative conference visit, we had 3 priority growth areas. And just to summarize them, the first was to develop a more complete response to intervention system. So to increase our interventions that we have for students, both academic and social emotional, to develop a vision of the graduate. And then lastly, to increase student voice and ownership of their high school experience. That third one, like I've said before, was actually one that we added, and it came out of the visit. It was something that we agreed upon, feeling like it was something that we were pushing for at Plainville High School, and something we wanted to work towards over the next couple of years and continue that work. As I say, we feel very confident about the work we have done. We think we are well on our way to satisfying these priority growth areas. Something I'll mention again, and it's important to understand, is that for the priority growth areas, except for number 2, and I'll explain why in a second, really what they want to see is progress towards those goals. It's not a sense of completion. It's just that you are working on this and that you are making good strides towards completing these. The original accreditation visit was scheduled for November 15th to 18th of 2020. Obviously, due to everything that is going on, we've stayed in touch with NEASC. NEASC at this point, and I'm sure this guidance will change as well, is basically telling all the fall schools that they will most likely have a choice, or I should say they will have a choice to push off their visit. One of the problems too is that NEASC is now currently trying to make up all the spring visits that should have taken place at this point. There's all kinds of considerations on the table. One of the nice things is I've been trained as a chair for the new visits, and I've actually participated in 2 visits over the past 2 years, first as an assistant chair and then as a chair. And getting a little more kind of inside information from NEASC, they're really looking at all kinds of different ways to keep on doing these accreditation visits, for whatever adjustments they need to make. There's even been talk of virtual visits if that's absolutely necessary. So it's probably going to look different, even more different than what we were expecting originally. So Kevin, if you can switch to the next one. The new NEASC process, what will happen during this visit is it's made up of 5 main areas. So we will have a review of our foundational elements. NEASC now has what they call foundational elements, which you have to meet as a school. We did a very good job. We're one of the few schools that met on the foundational element of curriculum, because we do have a written curriculum in a consistent format across all subjects and all courses. The one that we needed to meet on was vision of the graduate. And so if you remember just a few minutes ago, that's why I mentioned that with the priority growth areas, they're looking towards progress. But for that second one, with the development of a vision of the graduate, they do want to see that in place. So we will meet that goal. And then, I'm sure on all the rest of the foundational elements, we will continue to meet our foundational elements. We'll be one of, barring something extreme, we'll be one of the first schools I've seen where we'll meet all of those foundational elements. The second part is a reflection on our priority growth areas. That really summarizes a majority of the visit. The team members will really investigate and look into the work we've done, and really that's us self-reporting. And then they'll do a lot of work to kind of confirm the work we have done. And they use an action impact growth model. So they want to know what actions we took, the impact it had, and then the areas for continued growth. The other main piece is a reflection on student learning. Unlike the collaborative conference visit, they'll spend a lot of time in classrooms. It takes on a large part of the visits now. And they give us a pretty detailed report on the student learning that they see in our classrooms. And I'm sure we'll do well on that as well. The one that will be kind of a new interesting piece, and this is where, Board of Education members, they will ask to meet, usually on the Sunday when the visit starts, just because they take consideration for everyone having work schedules. And what they call that is the capacity for continuous growth as a learning organization, and what's become known as the 4 C's. And to summarize, really all it speaks to is just as a learning organization. So from the district level, all the way down to the school level, all the way down to our teachers, do we have that capacity for continuous growth as a learning organization? And you can see they break it up into those 4 items. And then the last piece will be they'll offer commendations and recommendations. It's much different in the past. If you remember, probably the last time NEASC happened at Plainville, there was probably a very lengthy list of recommendations that were given. Now they keep them under 10 recommendations, and a lot of times it's fewer than that. And as I put there, it's just a real focus on collaboration, as I've already mentioned. Kevin, if you can switch to the next one. Now, I don't know if you want me to pause here, if there's any questions about NEASC, or if you just want me to continue right into the Vision of the Graduate.
Does anyone have any questions about the NEASC process at all? All right, I think you could probably go right into it, Mr. Johnson,
Right.
and at the end if there's any questions. Thanks.
Perfect, thank you. So, as I'm sure you remember, we have been working on the Vision of the Graduate, and this has been a process that we've gone through, and we've tried to really be thoughtful and careful about our planning for this. I don't think I need to read through all this, and I put it up there just so people can remember that we really have spent a good amount of time trying to think about this, and also taking ideas and really trying to condense ideas from all over the district, both from our parents and our community members and staff and all that kind of good stuff. So we've really tried to work towards that. On the next slide, you'll see this is our current iteration of the vision, and it's specific to Plainville High School just because our mission is on there, but the portrait of the graduate, vision of the graduate, is down there at the bottom. One of the things we'll be working on after we approve the language is working on a better visual representation of this. I am no artist, and I think the people on my committee would agree with that, and luckily we have some incredibly talented students. And our hope is that we will have some students work on making a much better visual representation of the vision. What I'm hoping we can approve tonight is we want to approve these 5 skills. And if you look, you'll see that, this was a lot of work and a lot of conversation. And, I thought about putting all the different slides of the different iterations we went through. If you remember, we started with a lot more than 5, and through a lot of hard work, we boiled it down to what we felt like were 5 that really embodied a lot of things. And so you can see we have the concept of collaborative, communicative, innovative, mindful, and resilient. And what we are saying is that Plainville Community School graduates are collaborative students, work together to share, compromise, contribute, and listen respectfully in order to achieve a common goal. Communicative students effectively exchange ideas by expressing thoughts clearly and engaging with their audience. Innovative students are resourceful, open-minded, and able to develop viable solutions in unique and creative ways to solve real-world problems. Mindful students are self-aware as they thoughtfully and purposefully consider how their actions impact themselves, others, and their community as a whole. And finally, resilient students persistently use challenges as opportunities for growth. One of the challenges we faced as a committee was taking a lot of the work that we're already doing and including that into our vision of the graduate. And we really feel like we've looked at the elementary school level, the middle school level, and also the high school level, and taken a lot of that work and validated what we're already doing, but also including in our portrait of the graduate. In terms of next steps, and Kevin, if you can go to the next slide. So as I said, we want to have an improved visual because this is really going to become one of the main documents, or main visuals of our school and also our district. And then also too, it's interesting. There's a lot of different ways people have done this in terms of implementation. And what we've set upon is that we would like to live with this for a year. And so what you're going to see during that year is the beginning process of integrating this into our curriculum. So seeing teachers start to use this more frequently in their classroom, referring to these ideas, these skills. They'll become a much bigger process, or part of our process, I should say, in terms of our courses. Also integration into our culture at PHS. And not that doesn't already exist, but being more, I guess I would say, transparent and more, literal about our use of these words and the use of these ideas and constantly coming back to them. And then later down the road, after we live with it for a year, really assessing and looking and reflecting on what's the best way to assess this in our students. And there's a lot of current ideas out there, that we floated around, but we really want to get a sense of what this is going to look like with our students before we set something up. And then finally, to reflect and revise on our programs and policies. And that'll be a few years down the road after we've really spent a good amount of time with the vision and also had some time to assess it in our students, and then really start to prioritize, do we need to make any changes so that we can live up to this better for our students? So, and with that, if anyone has any questions, I'd love to be able to answer them.
Carl, I just wanted to say, I wanted to thank you, and of course I want the board to ask their questions, but I wanted to just, regarding the terms, when you're talking about this working, covering the entire district, will how will that be explained to, say, a first grader, or what communicative or resilient, those types of, will you see a transition in what that looks like, how it's described and defined? If you could just explain that piece, if you have that.
Yeah, and I think that's something for the each level to work on, and we're going to have our language, obviously, that we use. And we try to write it in a way that I think, even, a teacher at any level can work on breaking down the ideas with their students. But we talk about quite a bit. I mean, one of the great things was on the committee, we had representatives from elementary school and middle school and high school. And we talked a lot about, the language that will have to be used to explain this to students. And the real power from this is going to come from the fact that in, 12 years, I'll be seeing students come up who have been talking about communicative, ever since they were in kindergarten or ever since they were in pre-K, and being collaborative and resilient and mindful. And I think these are, what was important to us is these are things that are already happening. If I look at the middle school and a lot of the language they use with their students around their habits of work, we really tried to push that into our ideas about resiliency. And then also too, with the work we're doing with SEL, that was a big push for mindfulness. So we're really trying to integrate a lot of things we're already doing, but really putting them under some big umbrella ideas so that we can all kind of understand how they fit together.
Can I do one quick question, Carl? This living with this for a year, this was initially designed before we are in our current situation of distant learning and what may be before us in the fall. Is that going to impact any way that we're looking at the impact of vision of the graduate, the timing?
I'll just say this. I think if there was ever a time to really focus on a couple big ideas and skills, it's probably this time. And I don't want to listen. I think everyone knows me. I tend to be a little overly optimistic. So what I would say is that my sense would almost be that I think it helps us to some degree. because I think we're all looking for, whatever that next step is going to be that we have to do. We're all looking for what that's going to mean, and we're all looking at our practices and revising what we need to do for our students. And so adding this piece in, I think, is going to make a lot of sense for people. That we really need to focus on the really important stuff right now. And if there was ever a time to focus on resiliency and mindfulness, I don't know if we could find a better time. So.
Good. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
I'll just kind of say that it speaks a little bit to to how important these qualities are, that this one of the most challenging times that we have, and these particular qualities seem to be really, just the kinds of things you think of as people needing to get through this. So it is really a kind of a testament to the work that you've done. So.
Thank you.
Any additional questions at all, or if not, I'll let Mr. Johnson off the hook temporarily, and we'll come back to him when we get to some distance learning updates. I did want to share the next topic on my report related to a look at district grading practices. So early in the year, I formed a committee with representatives across the district, and our central office personnel are all on there. Rosa, Tawana, David, representatives from the elementary, middle, and high school, teachers and administrators. We really looked at how we do grading and how we assess, grade, and report on student progress across the district. And I commend the committee for their work and really looking at how we could potentially improve our district-wide system, and then at each level how we can make pockets of improvement that just make more sense for kids and for families. So that work is underway. I would say that we had a bit of a stall because of the closure, but the majority of the work was done. Some of the next steps at the high school are still in progress, and feel free to jump in if you want at all, Carl. But we talked about looking at a total point system of grading at the high school. The middle school's work around the standards-based grading has gone really well. We found some issues with just communicating even more and more clearly, more extensively on how it works, and really just informing the community a bit better. But as far as the structure and the process of it, I've seen it really come to light and come to life in a great way through the distance learning as well. It's really lent itself to distance learning, and lots of great feedback throughout that process. So, at the elementary school, Tawana could probably speak better to this and her team that we had on the committee, but they've really connected the major work in each grade and how to better align assessments to show student progress around the standards at each grade level, and making some refinements to the report cards as well, also including things like the vision of the graduate, those pillars of citizenship and growth and those skills. So, and I don't know if Tawana, if you wanted to add anything that I missed, or anyone, Matt, or feel free to jump in if you'd like to. But that's basically where we are with grading. We found some relatively minor revisions at the elementary level. We were in really good shape with the report cards and general grading practices, but better linking connecting the standards and the assessments to student report cards in a more clear way. At the middle school, continuing the good work that's happening there, and then working on the transition next year to 8th grade, having standards based, with the exception of the high school courses that will follow the high school grading system. And then, Mr. Johnson, I'm not sure if the high school had presented on the total points that the math department currently uses, but the math department has used this grading system with a total points model rather than a category-based model so much, where all the quizzes combined equal 40%, or 30%, tests are equal 40%, and then different categories that don't always equal, that it's not always equivalent across the school. So we're looking for a more uniform system of grading at the high school. Anything else that any of the levels would like to add to that?
Steve, I think you summarized what was happening at the elementary level perfectly. I would just add that, as Steve mentioned, we identified the key power standards at each grade level, and those are what's going to be reported on at the end of the school year. Since, you know, just the corona closure, as we're calling it, has created an instance where we couldn't cover the entire curriculum. And so we really had to take the time to identify what was essential knowledge that we wanted students at each grade level to have. And that's what's going to be represented on the report card. And what I think is going to be extremely helpful for families is then we're going to use that information to make some suggestions and put up the website for the summer for families to use, and they can be able to access activities and things of that nature to kind of help students learn throughout the summer. But we're going to do that in more of a fun way. And so, you know, students will think of that as an exciting way of practicing some of the skills that they're going to need as they enter school in the fall.
So Tawana kind of bridged over to the distance learning aspect of grading, and that's great information. And we're going to give a little more detail on each of those levels with the distance learning piece. As far as just the general grading, Tawana, did I capture the changes being made by you and the subcommittee from our grading committee as well?
Yes, and we just did a little bit more work around the idea of really trying to help everyone have a common understanding of what each indicator on the report card means. And then aligning the assessments along with that. So sorry I jumped ahead, Steve.
That's okay. You're an overachiever. You're doing two things at once. Thanks, Tawana. Carlos, anything else you want to add, or Matt, either of those levels?
I mean, I would just say, Steve, I think you summarized it well. I think we're at the point now where I think one of the big things we're trying to do is unify across our departments, you know, and really come to agreements about that, and then make some real decisions about moving forward. You know, some universal policies that we're going to have at the high school when it comes to grading.
Thank you.
And Steve, again, you summarized well for us. We're well into our process of shifting from a traditional grading program to a standards-based grading program. Most importantly, I have to say that we've made tremendous progress and improved instruction by our focus on standards and feedback on those standards. If we're having any ongoing work, it really is around the technological hurdles that come with fitting our reporting of grades into PowerSchool. I know we're going to come a new iteration of that. It's coming out, which should help us to a certain degree, but we're coming along fine and very happy with it.
Thank you very much, Matt and Carl, for adding that. So it's a continued work in progress, but the goal is to have continuity, clear understanding by students and families about what's important and how it's graded, and then to also build in the ability for students to have multiple opportunities to get something right, because that's how it is in the real world. So you build that resilience, and opportunities for retakes and redos is something that's important to me, and I know we're working on that, wherever possible, so that it's not just you didn't know it on that day, you don't have to ever know it. You get chances to show your learning in a different way. So that's been really going well in many ways. So I'm going to jump into distance learning updates, because we have a couple of different subcategories in there, and we're going to do our best to cover this. When I spoke, we had our subcommittee meeting with the curriculum subcommittee last week, and Becky and I had spoken and just about giving some updates from a student perspective, and also about how we changed our grading with distance learning to meet the needs of our students. And then just some discussion about transition, and also, so the big transitions of grade 5, grade 8, and grade 12, where we stand with that. And then finally, looking forward, although it's it's a bit preliminary. I watched an hour and 10-minute webinar with the commissioner and higher ed and other groups today. So it's changing every day, and we don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but we'll give a little bit of a feel for, some of that. So I'm going to ask at this time for our principals to just give a kind of a snapshot of what it's like from a student perspective for a day in the life in distance learning. And we'll start with elementary. I know Andrew has a terrible toothache and he's going for an appointment in the morning. So he asked the two other elementary principals to pinch hit. So Tawana and Lynn are gonna share the elementary student perspective. And you could also share the grading perspective at the same time if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
You kind of already did the grading part, so.
Yeah.
Yep, sorry.
Okay. Pick that off.
Steve, do you want me to share the document that you have, or just?
No, we'll
I
just.
think I can just give the highlights of it.
Okay.
The board members all received that.
So like 7 or 8 weeks ago, we had a PLC day scheduled, and the day before, Andrew and Twan and I got together and said, you know what, instead of doing whatever, and I can't even remember what it was we were going to do, I said, instead of doing that, let's on the off chance that we, somehow have to go home and aren't able to have school, let's ask teachers to think about what it would look like if we had to go home sometime in the future. And so thank goodness we did that. And teachers sat around trying to imagine what it would look like, not knowing that the next day they were going to be told that we were actually doing it. So they made their plans, and it was kind of like planning for like living underwater. All of a sudden it's like, your whole world is going to change, and how would you do this? So the plans that we made for a typical day in the life of a typical child, probably nobody actually had that typical experience. We have lots of kids in the elementary level, probably like 1,200, 1,100 kids, and they probably all have a different experience. I'm going to share with you sort of the minimum experience and what it is that we've asked for teachers to do, but you have to understand that there's a lot of variation. We all meet the minimum, but there's a lot of variation beyond that. So the experience of each child really hinges upon, first of all, their age. We have 4 to 11-year-olds. It hinges on their ability to be independent and their ability to use technology. And it also hinges on the level of support that they have at home, and their tolerance for working on their own, and their tolerance for sitting at a computer and working, working on their academic studies without getting as much feedback and as much reward and as much information being directly given to them from their teachers. So I'm going to start a little bit with pre-K, because they're a little different than the rest of us. So pre-K is all about social relationships and cooperative play and emotional regulation. Those are really tough things for teachers to do with children that are 4 when they can't be in the room with them. But they have really risen to the occasion and have tried to do as best they can helping children with cooperative play. Yeah, I was on a call the other day when the teachers were talking about how they were trying to find things around their house that mirrored what the kids had in their house. So if the kids had Play-Doh at their home, the cooperative play was the Play-Doh that the teacher made, in her kitchen, so that they could have Play-Doh fun time together. Each morning, the pre-K teacher sends out a Seesaw, and Seesaw is this interactive app. Most people use it on their phone. It's also on the computer. So the teachers send out a Seesaw activity, and that let's kind of sets the stage for what they're going to do for the day. The children, through their parents for the most part, or their caretakers, respond to that Seesaw activity with a little video or a picture that they drew or something that they share. And then the teacher right then and there can answer back and give the child some praise and some feedback for it. Each week they have a circle time where they try and get at least once a week, they try and get all the kids in front of the computer together at the same time, if you can imagine that with a bunch of 4-year-olds. They all get together in front of the computer and they do a story, they do singing, they do all the kinds of things that they try to do in the classroom. That they try to do from a distance are what they do in the classroom. We also have paraprofessionals in pre-K, and thank goodness for them, because they're working on creating little videos and little lessons, and then actually following up by holding small group sessions and one-to-one sessions along with the teachers. So children are invited to come to their computer and meet and go over a little bit of learning in teeny little snippets with a paraprofessional or the teacher. Children in the pre-K that have an individualized education plan, an IEP, they engage in daily activities, and they're in a one-to-one group or one-to-one or a small group, and they have activities that are designed to meet their education goals. And also the teacher works closely with the parent for coaching and helping the parent to understand how best to meet their child's needs. So that's pre-K. Grades K to 5 is obviously different than pre-K, and K to 2 are very similar, and 3 to 5 are very similar. But for the sake of time, I'm going to kind of lump them both together. So every morning, students in K to 5, they go, or if they don't pick morning, they noontime, whenever they happen to get up, they get on the computer and they can see the morning message from the teacher. And in the message, the student gets information about what the assignment is for the day and the directions and where to find the lesson for the day. And then each Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, children have 3 narrated lessons from a Plainville teacher. May not be their own teacher, and maybe another teacher at the grade level, but they watch a narrated mini lesson in math, reading, and writing. So they have 3 mini lessons, and that's followed up by an assignment. The students then complete the assignments. Grade 3 to 5 is a little more direct. They do it actually in Google Classroom, and they're able to submit their work straight through Google Classroom. The younger children do their assignments and submit them in a variety of ways, many of them still using Seesaw, the same app that the pre-K uses, but there are other ways that they are responding. The lessons are obviously developmentally at the level of the child, and the expected response is also. And then the other piece of it, that's the academic side of it. The other piece of it is the social piece. And this is a piece that we ramped up partway through this experience, because we saw that it was lacking, and that our kids needed more connections with people, more connections with their friends and with their teacher. And we're also hoping to ramp that up even more going forward. So each week we ask that each teacher spend about an hour doing social time with students, so they could have at least 1 or 2 sessions. And we are going to be looking at increasing that time as best we can. In those social meetings, a child gets the opportunity to meet with their teacher, just to sort of interact with them. You know, today I was on one first grade meeting where, you know, they play some games and they sing songs and they do rhymes and things like that. And everybody gets to do their show and tell and talk about, you know, and then they play some games, like the teacher had everybody find something that started with the letter T. And so they all zoomed off from their seats and ran around their house and came back with turtles and tablecloths and all sorts of things that they could find in 10 seconds. So the kids play, you know, a bunch of kind of enjoyable little games that gets them to be kids and to have fun with their friends and to be silly. In the upper grades, you know, the kids get to spend a little more time showing things that they've made. If you know, if one of the silver linings we have from this time, children are home, many of them are doing very creative art projects and building projects and things that they did and we didn't know about them because we weren't in their living room, but now we get to see them. Also, every teacher has office hours, so that means that parents or children, you know, depending on the age, can sign up to meet with the teacher. And it was intended for parents to be able to get clarification about assignments or to talk about specific issues that they were having with their child. In some cases, that's what it is, but in some cases, it's just children signing up just to talk with their teacher and to meet with them and to have fun. Specialists are also dropping in on, they've divided up the staff in the school, and they are dropping in on those social times, and they're inviting children into their own social time. So maybe the music teacher will invite children to bring the recorder and to meet them on Tuesday at 10 o'clock to play a song with the recorder. And the art teacher is inviting children to bring their art supplies and show them something that they've made. So the office hours and the social time sort of goes hand in hand. And again, children with IEPs, individualized education plans, they also have multiple sessions with tutors or paraprofessionals or special ed teachers. And they get a variety of help across the board. Most children meet, from what I've seen, 3 times a week with somebody who's sort of their personal helper to get them through this. And then children that do not have an IEP often, if they struggle or if they just need some work and they just need some help to organize them, or if they need help with the academics, we've also assigned them to have some extra help. So that's pretty much what it looks like in pre-K to grade 5. Questions for Tawana?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. I didn't mute myself.
Thank you, Lynn. I've gotten the opportunity to sit in on some of the class, group hangouts and socials and do some exercise with the kids or whatever. It's a lot of fun. It's really important to the kids, especially now, to have those connections. So the more time they have together. Here's one of our students.
Hi, Madeline.
It's really it's important for the kids. So it's been really good. Anything else you want to add, you two, before we go to the middle school?
No, I think Lynn did a very thorough job.
And you all have a report on all this too for the board members, but for the listening, for any listening guests, it's good to hear all these different options. Matt, you're up, I guess.
Sure. Hey, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for this chance to talk about how things are going at the middle school. And thanks to Lynn for, outlining a lot of the same process that we went through at the middle school from the beginning. And going back to the beginning, I think one of the things that's helped make this work as smoothly as it has, and it's been pretty smooth, I would say, a lot better than you might have anticipated a couple of months ago. There's been a few problems, but not many, has been, the fact that we were in such good shape with technology. So kudos to you guys, past boards and technology, Kevin, superintendents, for setting us up to this place, because much of the hurdles that many districts are facing have to do with people not having access to technology. At the middle school too, our teachers were well versed in Google Classroom, and they've used that extensively in their work and continue to use it on a daily basis with kids. I'll back up to what Lynn kind of ended with, and that's with special education. So very similar at the middle school, our special education students continue to see their special ed teachers, a paraprofessional or a tutor on an almost daily basis to make sure that they are meeting those IEP needs. So that continues either through Google Classroom or directly through Google Meets or Google Hangouts. And we also are utilizing our paraprofessionals as well as our building subs to provide some of that extra tutoring for students, whether they're special ed or not, who may be having difficulty with some of their classes and need an adult to kind of walk them through, at least for a period of time, once, twice, 3, 4 times, even every day. So we're doing the same thing. I did share with you a distance learning kind of an outline, a day in the life of a middle school student. And again, there's a lot of variation, probably not nearly as much as there would be in an elementary school, because our 6th grade curriculum and program is not that different than the 8th grade program. So most kids experience the same thing. One of the things I wanted to tell you before I got too far too, is I did ask my staff to collect some data on how, what kind of percentage we were getting in terms of productivity with this format that we've been using. And I averaged it. And I broke down the responses into the percentage of students who've been highly productive. That means they're doing everything and, maybe just missing a couple of things like they would even if they were in school. Those with moderate production, so doing enough to master the essential understandings, but maybe not as much as they might do if they were in school. And those percentage of kids doing little to nothing. So we've got 81.2% of our kids with high production in this situation, which is, I think, quite remarkable. And we've got 13% of our kids with moderate production and 5 to 8% with low, and that very few with none. We know who all of those kids are, and we are providing as much help as we possibly can. Some of it is, with those, we get right down to the individual kid. And when you're the only one home and mom's at work because she's a healthcare worker and dad works all night and doesn't speak English, and you are in charge of the kids and making food and family, we are working with those kids as well to try to support them as much as we possibly can as they work their way through this kind of day in a life of a middle school student, which would be quite a task for someone who had maybe all those other responsibilities as well. But what we like kids to do is start the morning by logging into their Chromebook. We watch the MSP morning announcements. We got those up and running within a few days of us being on distance learning. So thanks to Mr. Helming and the MSPN staff. In fact, I see Kevin borrowed our pledge. So that was Tamara Ibitz doing the pledge every morning for us on MSPN that he snatched off the MSP site there. Good work, Kevin. And I do something most days. Teachers get on and give some information about what things are like in their life. Kids showcase what's going on in their families and in their lives. We still do our raffle on Friday. So we try to keep that normalcy going. So anytime you're a middle school student, you want to jump in and watch the MSP morning announcements, kind of get a sense of school proceeding as normal. There you go. Students will check their emails every day for daily emails from counselors, administrators, their teachers, any of the support staff, and then they log into their Google Classrooms. Then students have the opportunity to go to at least one, more likely 2 or 3 Google Hangouts or Google Meets with a teacher during the day. Typically, we don't, again, get 100% of the kids who will log on and join those, but to the 40 or 50 or 60% of the kids who do, it's extremely important that they have that time period too. So we have a weekly Google Hangout with their homeroom teacher, which is a more social one. We have Google Hangouts with one of the UA teachers a day, so they can do that. It's Unified Arts teachers. There's a Google Hangout 2 to 3 times a week with a school level administrator or a school counselor that anybody can join. And as I mentioned earlier, there's those academic support meetings for special ed and 504 case managers. We've got book clubs going with teachers and with the librarian. We have live class time with some teachers. Now, this is much more difficult at the secondary level, because if I'm a teacher teaching math in the 8th grade, I share my students with 7 other teachers. So unlike an elementary school teacher that can say, hey class, we're going to have a class at this time, you're not competing, or you're less likely to be competing with somebody else. But if Greg Warnett in grade 8 says he wants to teach math at a certain time, the kids can't go anywhere else. So we have less of those live class new instruction and more live class support time for students who need it with students. Our student support team has been doing a phenomenal job keeping track of all students that may be struggling during this time as well. So we get those reports initially from teachers who give us a report on any student that may be struggling. We have some parameters as to when they should be contacting home, when they should be contacting the school counselor, when the school counselor should be contacting me, and when I might be contacting Mr. LePage to do a wellness check with a school resource officer. So we have all those steps built in as well. And what they do in the different classes, it really is specific to the subject area. Math is using Google Classroom to distribute assignments to students, then supporting those Google Classrooms with those live teacher meets as needed. They are also relying on Khan Academy. There's great videos in Khan Academy that help get the kids going on a particular concept. And we're also using a system called IXL, which is another individualized computer-based math program. And the kids get an assignment like that. So again, that's in my outline. Language arts, we also use IXL in reading to do some more basic grammar, fluency, comprehension. But they're also watching a video on the theme of a story that they're working on, and then they take assignments and practice quizzes on those that go along with that theme video. Science, as you can imagine, has had to shift a little bit from a lab-based experience. So they're focusing more on content and content knowledge. So they're getting a daily lesson, typically a video lesson from the teacher. It's 30 minutes average. And then they have assignments that go through that, that they have to do in association with that assignment. The teachers use Screencastify to explain the assignment. That's another technology tool that we have that allows teachers to talk about what they have on their own computer screen so kids can follow that along. Social studies, in a lot of ways, is following a similar pattern to science in that they do a video or Screencastify. They're also using Flipgrid. I think, Lynn, you mentioned Flipgrid, I think. So, or maybe it was, maybe not, but we're using another tool as well. And again, I have to thank Kevin and the technology team who put out a lot of information at the beginning and continue to support teachers to learn some of this newer programming pretty quickly. World language is continuing as it was before. Again, not as, I think, as effective, I must have to admit, as it is when you're learning a language, but not bad. They're doing a lot of, more content-based stuff and less, live discussion and conversation, but that's happening as well. All of our unified arts subjects are putting out great activities for students to do and making themselves available to support them. So kids have those once every 3 days. So they're doing, art maybe one day and then a PE activity the next day and a health activity the next day. We're continuing to operate our clubs. So if you're in MSPN or Student Council or First Responders Club, Yearbook Club, and we're also starting a lot of special school-wide challenges throughout this time. Those are up and running and meeting on a regular basis. And the teachers are making this work because they meet weekly in PLCs with their departments to review data and feedback and make adjustments along the way. They meet weekly with their grade level teams to review data in this kind of Zoom or Google Meet format. As I said before, the student support team meets weekly, more than weekly, to discuss families of concern. And the day in the life of a middle school student, it's a demanding day for a student to keep going on their work, but the teachers did a really good job in really focusing on those power standards. We were set up to do that as it was because of our switch to standards-based grading. So the teachers really knew already what they really needed to focus on to make sure the kids were ready to move on to the next grade if this happened to go for the whole year, which it is. And again, I'm pretty pleased with those academic work production rates of 80% or higher.
Thank you, Matt. That's a thorough, excellent report, and I'm really pleased with those numbers too. Well, actually moderate and exceptional. I think it's 90-something, 94% combined.
Yep, 94% of the kids are just crushing it.
So that's great, and we've had a lot of wonderful feedback from middle school parents as well. So thank you, Matt. I'm going to shift over to Carl with a day in the life of a high school student. I know there's a wide variety of students and a wide variety of different coursework and whatnot, but Mr. Johnson prepared a document to share with all of you, and he'll give some highlights of that.
Yeah, so I don't want to take people through the entire document just because we'd be here quite a while. But when this first began, one of the first things we looked at was structure. And how could we basically translate what we do at PHS on a daily basis to a remote setting. I think one of the things that's been successful for us is maintaining our daily schedule. So traditionally we have a 4-day rotation. We've taken that 4-day rotation, we've spread it out over 5 days, using Wednesday, like all the other schools, as a Wednesday workday. That was a shift that was made. Initially, we were trying to just stick with our schedule as it was originally posted. And to be honest with you, we got a lot of feedback of, students being overwhelmed with the amount of work that was coming in. And so we really took a hard look at that and figured out how we could, better organize that and better keep it. So for our students, at least, maintain some semblance of what they're used to. So the daily schedule, really what it's used for is class assignments of work and then when work is due. What's important about our schedule and what our students are used to is that each day 2 classes drop. And so that provides a break to students during the week, during that 4-day rotation. And we want to keep that in place. Otherwise we do have students who take 8 classes. And so you could have a situation where a student has 8 assignments coming in on one day, if we didn't put this in place. And that would be overwhelming for anyone. And so we really wanted to work on that and make sure that we're following that. And it's something we continually push with our teachers. When we hear about a situation where it's not being followed, we remind them that, it's not just about your class, it's about, everyone. And that's something we have to do. We also initially realized that with 689 students, I should say, meeting over 8 different periods, that if we allowed people to just basically set up meetings on their own, it was going to turn into chaos pretty quickly. So we also created a schedule for virtual class meetings. Again, like the middle school, we've really been using those as virtual office hours. Our students are, they're keeping some unique schedules. I see it with my own nephew who's 15. He's reverted back to a schedule that I probably kept when I was 15 during the summer. I can't really do it anymore. And so we've tried to be cognizant of that, that we have students who are, living very different lives than they would under the normal routine of waking up and going to PHS. And, the biggest thing, if I could summarize it, I think we've worked on with our teachers is really being understanding and empathetic and lenient about understanding the situations that students are in. And what we constantly remind teachers is that, we can't even begin to guess in some situations what's going on. And so we really have to always kind of approach it from that angle. So the virtual office hours, in terms of a day in the life, we kind of wrote up and you can see it there. A student will wake up. One of the biggest things we constantly try to remind students is, check your email when you get up, check Google Classroom. All of our teachers are using Google Classroom. Again, I can't thank the Board of Education, superintendents, assistant superintendents, the people who came well before me, who set up something that I don't think was ever planned for a situation we're currently in, but it has helped us tremendously at the high school level. When I talk to our colleagues, or I should say my colleagues who are principals of other schools, we are able to overcome some hurdles very quickly that other schools struggled with mightily for a significant amount of time. The virtual meetings, we want students to wake up. We want them to check Google Classroom. They see the assignments that are due. We've reminded teachers about being very understanding about when assignments are turned in. Because like I said, we understand that, some of our students are, keeping some pretty unique schedules. The virtual meetings we try to schedule, and you can see we added a whole list of all the different virtual meetings. We want our teachers scheduling a virtual meeting for each of the periods. We want them sharing it with their other students so that if they can't make a meeting on one period, they can make it another day. What we try to always remind our teachers is when we hear about someone scheduling something during another person's time, we really try to remind them, to watch out for that, because you're putting students in a really tough position. And the last thing we want is them having to make choices or stuff like that. The Wednesdays, we really use it as a time for our students to collaborate with our teachers and hopefully, reach out, ask questions, have meetings, stuff like that. And also giving our teachers time, which happens throughout the week, for CPTs. One of the things that we've, from day one, we knew we had to keep in place was our CPT meetings. And those have continued weekly for our departments to make sure that people are on the same page. We've also increased our IL meetings, which we consider our building leadership team. Traditionally, we meet once a month. We now meet once a week. So we meet every Friday to review basically the state of the building, and address any concerns and anything we have to do. One of the other things I'm very proud of at PHS was by the third day of the closure, we sent out resources to our students for social emotional well-being. Our school counselors pivoted very quickly and created online scheduling for our students so that they could sign up for time to meet with their counselors if they needed to. We continue to revise and reflect on how we can support that social emotional piece. It is I am not going to sugarcoat when I say it's a major concern for us. It is something we are continually concerned about with our students. Last week, and I don't want to sound, bad or anything like that, but last week was a rough week for a lot of our students. And we fully account for that. And we're trying to figure out what we can do to support our students remotely to get them through that, and across the board, I mean, the power of those IL meetings is having the departments report in about, these virtual office hours with their students and stuff like that, and it gives us a lot, I don't want to say a perfect understanding by any sense, but it gives us an understanding of what's happening with our students and how they're being impacted by what's going on. And so we try to respond to that. A survey went out last week, really trying to cast a net to try to kind of find out, do we have some students that we really need to, check in with and address? One of the things that we lose right now, and it's something that we rely on a lot in the high school, is, just visually checking on our students, and so when we see them in the hallway, we can tell teachers, hey, I'm a little worried about this person. Can you just keep an eye on them? And so we're trying to figure out ways we can do that as well. We're building in some more pieces. We're looking at our Wednesdays. One of the big things we want to do is build on our culture we have where, our students like our teachers and our teachers like our students. And we're going to be building in some socialization pieces. I hate to use that term because it just makes it sound very, I don't know, institutional or something like that. But what we're going to be looking at is on Wednesdays, providing time for students to meet with teachers just to talk about stuff that's not school related, and have some teachers put out there some interests they want to talk about, and basically just cast it out. If you want to meet and talk to Mr. Johnson about, I don't know, woodworking for a little bit, you can join on and we can just talk about, anything we need to. And so we're really trying to look at that kind of stuff. We continue to think about, just how to support them and how to continue that. And it's going to be something we constantly revise and reflect on. We just want to make sure we get this right. And it's, as much as I would agree with, I think, all of our other principals, that I feel like we've done a very good job, but we can always do more and we can always find different ways to support our students right now.
Thanks, Mr. Johnson. If you could, I think your grading shift has been the most significant, not to keep you talking, too much more, but if you could just kind of share kind of a quick overview of how you came to that decision. I know we talked about a consultant before you sent that out. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of all the research that went into finally deciding on a grading structure for the end of the year.
So, as I'm sure you're aware, this has been a moving, target in terms of date of return since we left. So originally we went out with the, hope that we would return in 2 weeks. Then it got extended, to May 20th. And then it got extended again. On April 8th, we received guidance that had been promised from the State Department of Ed about grading, especially for high schools. And this, goes back to the conversation we had earlier about grades. We try to remind our teachers that grades at the high school level carry a lot of weight because they impact things well beyond high school. And it really is the way at this point, we report out our students. So, the idea that was pushed, to summarize basically by the state, is looking at pass fail. And schools have taken that guidance in many different ways. I'm very fortunate to have some amazing colleagues across the state. I meet on a CAS, Connecticut Associations of Schools virtual meeting a couple times a month, where there's 12 principals who get high school principals who come on, and we discuss current issues, and then they use that to push things out to the rest of the state. Also been part of NEAS groups about this. And what we saw was a lot of schools, as the state had said, moving to a system of what would be considered, fail, pass, and a pass plus. We entered into our grading system with, and I think if you ask any principal right now, they would agree with this, at least the 12 I talk to regularly. Our motto going into this was do no harm. We want to make sure that we did not put something in place that would harm a student's grade, or somehow harm, something in the future for them. And so what we put in place basically gives a benefit to students, and we try to, basically help them, taking into consideration, like I said earlier, that we really have, in some cases, we don't know what they're dealing with at home right now. And that's something that, concerns us greatly. And when we look at a grading system, we want to take account for that. We tried to balance that along with the feeling that we do feel like we are doing a good job at PHS. And although it's not what we could do while we're in PHS, we do feel confident, with what we're doing. And so in balancing that, what we've done is create a system where basically maintaining a numeric grade that's attached to an F, a P, or a P plus. And then also students who are above a 90, they could opt into the system if they wanted to, but one of the big things is that if you have a numeric grade above a 90, we also want to maintain that for you, for GPA and class rank and all that kind of stuff. Switching to a pure pass fail system, like every principal wrestled with, is a real challenge, because unless you are going to basically freeze everything, because you'd have to look at your year-long courses, you have to attach some kind of numeric number to calculate a final grade. And so unless you're going to do something pretty radical, and our main concern was giving students credit for the work that had already been done. In some cases, we went out about 75% of the way through the third quarter. So we wanted to make sure that we accounted for the hard work students had already done at PHS. We didn't want to change the rules for things that already happened. That was another big concern of ours, is going back and retroactively changing things, and changing the rules of the game without students being able to have an impact over that. So we feel like we've come up with a good system. Is it perfect? I don't know. I would say probably not. I don't know if there's a perfect system out there right now for what we're dealing with. But I'm very confident that it works well for what we want to do for our students, and it works well for our school.
The middle school pretty much maintains standards-based grading because it was conducive to what we're doing in distance learning anyway. And then the 8th grade courses that are for credit are following the same grading system as the high school. And then Tawana shared earlier about the elementary grading based on the power standards really being used as an indicator to also show, the next teacher that's going to receive those students just as benchmarks to show where those students are at the end of the year, more in an informative way than in a judgmental way. Yeah.
The only one thing I wanted to throw in there that I didn't mention earlier is I also asked teachers to give me some feedback on work productivity since it was announced, and it's only been a week that we won't be coming back this year, and they indicated that there's been no change in productivity, which is
well, that's really good, and it's surprising because with my call with the commissioner, we basically said you're going to see a dramatic drop off in a lot of areas, a lot of schools, a lot of towns.
Not yet. Still might happen, but not yet.
Well, and a lot of it depends on how you maintain a sense of normalcy and a structure and a system and supports and the social emotional piece and the check-ins and all the things that we're doing that you explained. So I think I think that the better you are at all of those things, the less you'll see that drop off. And as it is at this time of the year, you start to see a drop off anyway. So now, with the finality of it, and I noticed about a doubling of my emails that day, and there's already a lot. So people are just anxious and nervous, and there's a lot going on in people's minds, and understandably so. But so that's
if it keeps snowing, that'll keep the spring fever down a little bit.
We had hail today, so so that's a day in the life. It's a very broad overview. We could be here all night, and I still have a lot more to go through. And that's also a description of the kind of the grading structure that I wanted the principals to share. I don't know if there's any questions on those items before I move to some other short pieces about distance learning that I'll share.
Hi. I just wanted to make two quick comments. One, since the social emotional piece has been brought in a little bit more with kids having a little bit more access to their teachers, it's been wonderful. I see with my boys that they're Mason's working hard on the westward expansion, and it can get a little dry at times, but his teacher had pet lunch, so all the kids at lunchtime brought in their pet, and he was just so thrilled about going to school, and it just kind of gave him what he needed to just kind of keep going and keep that excitement going. And I thought my first grader's teacher, I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go, when she said we're gonna do a class meet with 18 first graders.
Yeah.
Within 5 minutes they knew their mute, they knew their unmute, and I was just like, can you come over? It was pretty amazing, and just thank you, because even when you have parents that are essential, that are working, I've been able to have access and still see what's going on with them. I don't know if the boys are always happy, but I think they're a little surprised that I can still see, how are you doing on this assignment, or you need to expand on that westward expansion. But between talking with the teachers at Mason's level, or just being able to get right into Seesaw at Logan's, even if it's not an ideal situation, you're still able to kind of stay right on, and you guys have made that all accessible. So it's really appreciative.
Thank you for the feedback. Any questions at all? I know I shared a ton of information with you on Friday to prepare for tonight. So we're trying to, hit on it from different perspectives. But if there's any questions you forgot to ask, and just follow up with me afterwards, or one of the principals, any of us will be happy to answer. I do want to jump into transition planning. I know it's a hot topic on everyone's mind. What are we going to do for 5th grade transition to 6th grade, and 8th grade into 9th grade? And then, of course, the big one is 12th grade into life after high school. And that's been the big one, and the hardest one, because it's very final, being a Blue Devil for 12 years, and just having a lot of those big celebrations and culminating events and activities feeling like they're lost. But I want to commend the high school team and the district team and district partners, and everybody that's involved in really planning in a sensible way at all levels, because whenever someone sends a message to their entire school, I get that. So I get to see all the things happening at the 5th grade level, and at the 8th grade level, and at the 12th grade level. So, I'm really impressed with everything that's being done. It's really difficult, and I have a meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock with the health department, with Shane Lockwood, and a lot of it just depends on their approval on different ideas. We have, like Carlos sent out in his message to all the seniors that he shared with the video on Friday. There's basically 5 plans for different graduation ideas, and many of those things will happen regardless of what comes. But depending on the guidance we get, prior to June 12th, I'm hoping for guidance that we can send out a definitive answer, after tomorrow. But there are some things that we definitely can do and will do, and there are other things that we're still waiting for an answer on. So, and that goes for the 5th and 8th grade ceremonies as well, because the last I talked with the health director, I wasn't able to get a definitive yes that we could do reverse parades, where we have, all the teachers line up at the school, separated by at least 6 or 10 feet between cars, and decorate their cars and families can drive through and wave to teachers. So those are ideas that are out there for 5th and 8th grade in different locations. And, you know, I haven't gotten official approval. I haven't gotten a definite no yet, but I haven't gotten a definite yes. So a lot of it's really contingent on what we are told we can do. We're going to do everything we can do. We're fully committed to doing whatever we can do at the end of this year and then beyond, as Mr. Johnson has shared in his messages, you know, with an in-person graduation ceremony of some sort, and also hopefully a prom and senior picnic kind of celebration event, if those things become possible, when they become possible. You know, whether it's later in the summer or in the fall, you know, when kids come home for Thanksgiving or the holidays, the winter holidays, or even at the end of the year, if we have to next summer, whenever it works, we're going to do whatever we can. So, you know, I shared a document about transition planning overviews, and there's been a lot of great stuff that has been shared by Denise Gradzicki with 5th graders, and it's being released each week with different things to help the 5th graders prepare for the middle school with virtual tours and, you know, meeting teachers, and really great stuff over the next several weeks until the end of the year, with something shared every week. Like I said, reverse parades being shared, and then all the things that are happening. And I linked Mr. Johnson's message to the seniors from Friday. It's about a 7.5 minute video where he just talks to them, and it's, you know, really from the heart. And if there's one thing that this district has, it's leaders with heart. So I think that's really important. And there's also a lot of transition that's happening, supports in transition planning for special education, and we're having PPTs, and those are starting, and we're trying to do more business as normal and making sure that our students are ready to transition to the next year, especially our students with needs who have more significant planning that needs to take place. We have posted the pre-K registration, and kindergarten will be posted soon as well, virtually. So anything else on transitions, we'll continue to update you, but, you know, a lot of thought is being put into those different, especially those really important transitions. And connected to that, the next topic is the shifts that are happening with distance learning in our curriculum, and related to a transition, what we're planning for next year. And again, this is all tentative on whether we can go back to a normal start to the year. And I know it's on everybody's mind, and my emails have been pretty significant on this topic, because we just don't know what the fall is going to look like. But the plan is to have the elementary schools return to their current grade that they're in with their current teacher and their current classmates for a week. It's basically 4 days, because I think we go back the day after Labor Day. So it's 4 days where there'll be, this is the goal anyway, depending on what guidance we get from the health department and the governor, you know, reacclimation activities, you know, getting back together, re-socializing, just spending time together in a comfortable space to support the social and emotional needs of our kids, and then helping them to transition to the next grade. We would have to delay the start of preschool for that reason, because all the preschoolers from this year would go back to their preschool class from this year and then be transitioned to kindergarten. So it's not that we're keeping everybody back for a grade. It would be for a very temporary transition period, where we also do some assessments and really gauging where students are, so that the receiving teacher would be involved in that, and the current teacher, and really making sure that we're prepared with fully knowing where our kids are, so we can better meet their educational needs. So that's part of the transition planning as well, and just curriculum shifts happening throughout the course of the end of the year and over the summer to better realign and recalibrate. And I'll talk about that in a proposal for the student schedule for this year a little bit later. I'll share some more about that. So as far as distance learning goes, David and I, Mr. Lewandowski and I, had given a really thorough, I think, detailed report and a lot of supporting documents about the overall system and the process and the transition to distance learning. I know you were looking for some more student-centric day in the life, how grading's changed, transition planning. That's a real broad view, and there's a lot of meetings happening every day to plan all of those things. But, you know, I can assure you that we won't let the kids down, and we'll continue to do our best and improve every day. But that's the overview on distance learning. If there's any questions on that for me or any of my principals who are in our curriculum folks who are kind enough to be with us tonight in special ed, they're all here tonight. So if you wanted to ask any questions, please feel free to before I move on to our next item, which is related to the SRO proposal. Anybody have questions? I know Vicky's with us and all of our principals, or any questions at all, or anything that I failed to mention that anyone wanted to mention?
I just wanted to, first of all, thank everybody for all the time that went into preparing this. When we asked for it just a few days ago, I knew it was going to require a lot of time. And I think we all understand that what you gave us is, there's, like you said, there's probably no child in the town that's experiencing exactly what you explained, because everybody's different. Everything is different. Everybody's home situations are different. You know, so no way to see exactly what kids are getting. However, for me personally, this was extremely helpful.
Good.
And I feel like if a parent had an issue now and said something to me, I would have a much better understanding about what they might or might not know, or what, you know, have a better way to direct them into what they should do, you know, who they should contact, because it wouldn't be me. But you know, I really do appreciate all the work that went into this. And I know, like I said, I personally got a lot out of it, and completely understand that it's different for every student at every grade level across the district. So I just wanted to express my appreciation for all that information.
Thank you. And you know, I can't say what how happy I am with our team. And I didn't Rosa with the EL supports and all the outreach and preparation, making sure all of our students who speak all different languages have what they need to be successful. You know, the whole team is really pulled together. Our administrative team has really led this, and then our instructional leadership teams and our folks at the schools with our instructional resource teachers and just the PLC leadership and our principals. So I'm proud of the work we've done. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. And we'll continue to, you know, we just looked at surveys this morning. I sent out surveys to all the staff, and I sent out surveys to all the parents. And I have some really great, that's a whole nother presentation for you. But, you know, basically what we decided from those surveys is that keep doing what we're doing and continue to do it with fidelity, and make sure that that everybody's maintaining the same level, the caliber of, you know, performance, because the large majority of comments were extremely supportive, and then, you know, can basically do more of the same. So we're going to continue to keep doing what we're doing, improving every day. And for the next, believe it or not, it's only less than 4 weeks of regular school left, well, depending on my proposal later in the meeting, but I will get to that. So thank you very much, principals and district leadership team, for all you do, and for your sharing that presentation. There's a lot of information. I do want to jump to a different topic, but it's an important topic, and it's something that's evolved over the last month or so. And thanks, Town Council Chair Puglisi, for staying with us. And you know, we had met. Well, I'll get to that in a minute, but we met with Chief Catania and Robert Lee to discuss this last week. And I just want to share an idea that came to me when I was watching a town council meeting where, you know, the budget was being discussed earlier on at the beginning of April. And, you know, the topic of a half-time police officer came up, or a half-year police officer came up. And I, you know, my crazy brain got thinking, well, I said, well, I have a full-time security monitor that I want for the middle school to ensure the security and secure entryway of that building until the renovations has a secure entryway in place. And it's about a $28,000 salary item, and it's in the budget already that was approved. And then when I was listening to the conversation, I said, well, maybe this would be great if I could talk to Chief and see if there's a way of doing another SRO at the middle school, because I fully believe in the model, and it's been extremely successful at the high school, and Jessica Martin's is incredible. And if we have some of that caliber at the middle school, to continue to provide not only the safety and security and the comfort for families and students knowing there's a police officer in the building, but also that connection with kids, the involvement in the school culture and climate, and all those things that SRO becomes to a school community. It becomes another highly trained professional who kids can talk to and be heard and address some of the adolescent challenges that they're going through. So it's a counselor, it's an officer, it's a security personnel, and a highly trained police officer all wrapped in one. So getting to the point, I did meet with Chief and asked him if he would be open to the idea, because I remember when it was originally pitched through a grant program, that grant was for 2 SROs, one for the middle school, one for the high school. We unfortunately didn't get that grant a few years ago when Chief, it might have been 4 or 5 years ago, when Chief originally proposed it. So it was put on hold, and then the SRO at the high school came to be, and it's been very successful. Then I spoke with Robert after I spoke with Chief, and the 3 of us talked about whether this is something we could all support. And we all agreed that we could, and it's a good idea. But we certainly needed to talk to the Board of Education, to the town council about this as an idea. So we met with town council Cheryl Puglisi last week, along with Chief and Robert Lee, and just had a discussion about, kind of like I had here, about how the idea came to be. And then it was explained to me that that position for a half-year police officer is really intended for traffic patrol and safety, around the town, which has become a growing concern. And people speeding through neighborhoods, and speed bumps, temporary and permanent speed bumps being put in around the district, just to help prevent that, but also the need for more traffic enforcement. So that was the intention of that half-year officer. So my great idea wasn't as great as I thought, but and then talking about it, I think we all agree and believe in the process of the value of an SRO. And I don't want to speak for town council Chair Puglisi, but I think that we all supported the idea. But the issue being that this year it wasn't in the budget, and the police officer in the budgets for traffic enforcement. But that being said, if we were able to come up with the funding through some additional realized savings, that we'd be able to, from the Board of Education side this year, cover that position, which would be about another $35,000 on top of what we already had budgeted for the security monitor, that we would all, everyone in that group would support the idea. And then in the future, hopefully look to continuing, proposing a shared services model for SROs and for other, other shared employees like that. So that's the backdrop to it. And then, so we left that meeting saying, well, I'm going to propose it to the Board of Education in theory as an idea, if we can come up with the funding. And then, I did speak with Robert after, and he said that, perhaps a windfall regarding the insurance fund, which we, I guess, erroneously had believed would go up because of the COVID-19 concerns. But in fact, the insurance company had contacted Rob Buden and Robert and said that they're projecting it's going to be dramatically down, perhaps as low as a 0.5% increase instead of 3.5%. So in our original budget, we were told to budget 5% as a rough number, but then 3.5% was the number that we were given. But now, largely probably due to a lot of the elective surgeries and things of that nature being, put off, and some other things maybe not happening because of COVID-19, and also some government, subsidy of healthcare. The rate is looking to be very favorable. So on the board side, that amounts to about $173,000, 3% less than we had expected. So from 3.5 to 0.5 is about $173,000 difference. So, I really believe in the value of an SRO. I think it would add an increased level of security, especially in a time when there may be feelings of uncertainty, coming back to school. We're going to have a lot of work to do with the transition of going back to school. We don't know what that's going to look like yet, but there's something about having a trusted police officer in your building that helps. In addition to helping the safety and security of the building, it helps on all the other SEL, social emotional side. So I fully support the idea. It's something that I would want to get I'd like to add to the well, it's on the new business actually as an agenda item. Given if we were able to find the funds through some realized savings that maybe weren't anticipated to better help secure our middle school and build on the SRO model, I would fully support it, and I would look for the Board of Ed to support it. But I know it's something new that I didn't propose in my budget, so I understand if there's questions, concerns. So I'll stop talking now, and before I move on with my agenda, is there anything that anyone would like to ask or add or comment? And Kathy, if I got anything wrong in that, feel free to with my description of how that all came to be.
Thanks, Steve. Actually, you were perfectly on task there, I have to say. And I do agree with an SRO concept in our schools. Officer Martins has done a very good job at the high school, as been attested by everybody on the Board of Ed, along with our chief and our police department. So it is a position that we have found to be very, very successful. We did talk about the funding, and as you said, there are some changes yet again in all kinds of financial aspects on the board side as well as the town side in terms of our insurance. So I think it's something certainly we could do. We could keep the 6-month police officer position for traffic in the town side of the budget. And we can also work on funding the SRO. I do understand that this is also going to come to the council. We have a meeting on Monday. Right. Because the SRO would be hired through the police department, which comes under the council's oversight. So I will certainly, during our town council meeting, advocate for that position for the schools. I think it's worked out very well at the high school, and I do believe 100% it would do just as well at the middle school. So I think that's a great idea, and we'll work it out in terms of the funding of it.
Thank you. And it's nice to have, in the proximity to Toffelon School too. If there's ever an issue, it's, literally, 2 seconds across the street. So, there would be the middle school SRO, but you also have, greater accessibility of a police officer very immediately to the Toffelon if needed. The Officer Martins has helped me out in situations at Linden this year because it's right down the street. So I would envision the same thing kind of happening. So, I really love the program. I've been in programs with SROs for many years. My last district, we had SROs, and the district I live in, they have one that's shared between the 3 elementary schools as well as one at the middle and the high school. So it's not an uncommon model to have more than one SRO in a district our size. So I will leave that for later for an action item in new business. But are there any other questions I could address? Okay. I want this is something that the Innovation and Education Grant is the next item on the agenda. I want to thank the members of the Plainville Innovation and Education Grant Committee for their involvement and for meeting with me earlier in the year to discuss the plan for promoting the fund, considering some fundraising opportunities in the future, which we were going to meet again, but we haven't had a chance to, and then distributing the allowable funds this year to innovative Plainville educators through grants. Included on the committee are Wendy Bender, Sue Bradley, Ann Carnival, Lynn Davis, Lisa Gianni, Deb Peichel, board member Crystal St. Lawrence, Kathy Schlosser, and board member Foster White. So I want to thank everyone for their involvement on the committee. This came to be when Dr. Brummel was here, and some funds that were left to the district through a trust. And have been enrolled into Community Foundation of Greater New Britain manages that money, and we're allowed to use a certain amount of that each year based on the interest. So this year we have $840 available. There was one grant application from Amy Delana. She's a speech pathologist, communication disorder specialist at Linden, who wishes to create a speech and language lending library to increase generalization into speech situations outside of the speech room. So this would be for materials to practice, for practice would be readily available for teachers and parents to borrow. And I believe some of these are online, some of these are hard copy. be used to elicit target responses as well as general information regarding communication disorders and remediation. Rather than boring worksheets, the materials will be hands-on, interactive, and easily accessible. The secondary purpose is to encourage teachers and parents to take on a more active role in the therapeutic process and to become more comfortable sharing the teaching, since communication does not happen in isolation, as we all know really well now. This was submitted before we went into distance learning. So that was the only applicant this year, and I shared it with the committee electronically, and there was consensus that it was worthwhile of the fund. So she was looking for 1,000, but we have 840 to give. So we're going to award that $840 to Mrs. Delana. And I just wanted to publicly acknowledge her and thank her for filling out the grant application for the benefit of the kids. And I want to thank our board members who sit on that committee and all the other committee members. So thank you very much. And I'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is an important one. And it's another item I'd like to get board approval on. So we'd need a motion to add it to the agenda as new business, but because it involves a school calendar for students. So this came to be with a discussion about the many preparations we need to make. First of all, the closing out of this school year, once our students have completed their distance learning work, and really getting a clear understanding of where students are and where they're going and how to get them there. Communicating with PLCs, giving time for professional learning for our teachers with our new math program that's to be voted on later tonight as well. Training all of our paraprofessionals and tutors on the ruler and social and emotional learning that all of our teachers have had training on. So there's a big need for a lot of time for professional learning with our entire staff. So that being said, by June, in the best of circumstances, our students start to become disinterested and a little bit burnt out on school. Senioritis kicks in with every grade, and it's more social, and they become more parties and more classroom gatherings. So what I'm proposing is that instead of keeping all of our other students aside from seniors are graduating officially on June 12th, and there will be celebrations and honors for them. Based on our 3 snow days that we had in December, we were on the calendar, we have to get the 180 school days in, it would be till Wednesday, June 17th for every other grade. What I'm proposing is that we end school for all students on June 12th officially. That new work would not be assigned after Friday, June 5th. That the week that would normally be final exams and things of that nature would be even an increased chance for socialization, for group meetings, for class parties virtually, for all kinds of fun activities where the class really continues to bond and say their farewells to each other at all grades. And then on June 12th would be the last day for students. We have contracts with our staff to work through the Wednesday, the 17th, which would be school days. So we do professional training on all those different areas that I mentioned, really preparing for what next year might bring. And I'll have more information at that time as to what we need to prepare for. So that would be my proposal, to change the number of school days to 177 for all the grades, instead of just for seniors, and to continue our professional learning and preparation on those 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the following week. Are there any questions on that proposal? I know a lot. I would just add one more thing. A lot of districts didn't begin distance learning for 2 to 3 weeks after. They spent time preparing, doing professional development, working on their technology, gaining access for kids. We didn't miss a day. We rolled into it the very next day, the very day that we closed. We got the waiver, we got the approval, and we started doing our work at a high level. And we've evolved and improved. I would say that our students having 177 days instead of 180 would be still more than many districts around the state had this year. And we were allowed to do that with a 180-day waiver that the governor and the commissioner issued. I don't know if anybody has any questions or things to add or comments.
I
Okay.
know that we talked about this a little bit, Steve, and I think that just to we hit the ground running, like you said, right from the very beginning, and I think this is something that is important. Beyond what kids are learning, it's how kids are feeling, and not just kids, it's teachers and staff too. So I think it's an important thing that can help maybe give everybody a little relief at the end of the year. And, so I certainly believe in this. And when your report is done, I'll ask somebody to add this as an item H under new business.
Okay.
If I could just add one more thing, Steve mentioned the other piece that we want to do is give teachers time to get their websites and their classroom Googles up for the summer so that they can be resources for parents and children during the summer. So that's some of the time that they'll be doing that so that kids can keep practicing and experiencing some more learning opportunities.
Thank you, Lynn. That's right. That's the one piece I forgot to mention. And I had preliminarily, I can't talk right now. Too much, my tongue's worn out. We had talked about different ideas of maybe shortening this school year by one day for the kids, or by by one day, and then adding or having one less day at the end and 2 more days of PD at the beginning of the year, and or I'm sorry, shortening it by 3 days, but then the balance with hiring new staff, we'd have to pay all new staff by 2 extra days. So that wouldn't have worked out. And this will be a good way to wrap up the year and really give us the preparation going into the summer where we feel a lot more prepared for coming back. So that would be my proposal, and you'll get that later in new business. The next few items are kind of added a little bit later on. Mr. Farrell had contacted me and let me know that the hockey co-op, I think he notified us earlier that the co-op was having some issues and breaking up because Wethersfield was our host school for the last 4 years, and we pay to be part of this co-op. However, Wethersfield exceeded the allowable number of players for a co-op, so they have to have their own team now. So we're no longer able to be in a co-op with Wethersfield, but we still have students 3 and maybe 4 who want to play hockey. They played hockey their whole life and they want to continue. Mr. Farrell's worked out an opportunity for a new co-op with Rocky Hill and Middletown to assure that our students will have a place to play hockey next year and in the future. Rocky Hill made the decision to be the host school. Plainville and Middletown will be in the co-op, as well as adding Haddam-Killingworth High School. So there'll be 4 teams in the new co-op. The co-op's pending approval by the CIAC. It has to be approved by the CIAC board. And then Chris feels that there'll be no issues with the approval since the CCC conference was in favor of it, 32 votes to 0. And all 4 are well below the allowed. All 4 schools are well below the allowed participant numbers. So it's a win-win to keep those kids playing. And it's not an action item because you already voted on the co-op a few years ago, and we were part of a championship team, I think, last year. And it's been very successful for Plainville. So we want to keep that going. So it's more of an informational item that will be part of a new hockey co-op. I did want to just update you that the Linden Elementary permanent principal search has been on. I want to thank Tawana Graham Douglas, publicly. I think I've done that already, but I'll do it again. She's done a tremendous job and so well respected and loved by the community. And thank her for stepping in a tough time and doing a great job in a really tough time, and became even tougher really quickly. The search is on. I asked for feedback from the entire staff along with interim principal Graham Douglas. So we got feedback from every grade level team. And then we sent out a survey to all the families, asking them for feedback about what qualities they're looking for in the next principal. And I incorporated most of that into a job description, into the posting, I should say. It's been posted. And I also have one of the questions on the survey to parents was, do you want to be part of a panel or a committee, the interview committees? And so I have a list of a large number of parents who are interested in that. So I'll be reaching out to them to really have a community buy-in in the next, permanent leader of Linden Street School. It's a wonderful school with a tremendous staff, and we want to make sure that we have the right permanent person leading that, sailing that ship. I'll bring it back. So that's underway. Just wanted to let you know that all of our positions are in the process of being filled. They've most of them have been posted, but we have to follow the HR process where you can't fill one position until you've filled the one that the person's vacating. So there's a lot of moving parts and moving pieces. So we're following all the posting rules and internally, externally, working with Stacy Buden and who's been helping out a lot with our HR needs. So that's been, and Dave Lewandowski's done a great job of also getting us, helping them to align us around a process for doing virtual interviews. And so we're all doing the same thing. So between Dave and Stacy, we have a meeting for that tomorrow morning, actually with our whole administrative team. So that being said, I did want to let the board know that I did get permission to food share mobile distribution to use the high school over the summer months. Shirley Osley had contacted me on behalf of Food Share. They were at the Housing Authority where they distribute food to those with need. I believe it's about 100 to 150 people on a bi-weekly basis every other Monday from 11 to 11:30. So we were asked, they're not allowed to use because of the proximity to the senior center, I believe, and just concerns there. So they asked for the high school front parking lot, which I agreed to. I filled out the paperwork and they're going to start on Monday, the 18th. It does give a schedule going through next December, and I requested clarification on that because I thought it was just through the summer and we wouldn't be able to host it at the high school in the fall because of all the cars that parked there in the student parking lot. So we'll work on that, but just wanted to let you know that's going to start happening. I want to remind you that I'll be serving on an SEL forum, and you'll be pleased to know that I've been limited to 3 minutes for my my talking points. And Betty Sternberg has told me she'll mute me if she has to. So it's the former Commissioner of Education who runs the Teacher Leader Fellowship Program at CCSU. I'll be on a panel with 8 others, three teachers, 3 principals, and 3 superintendents from the district. One of the other superintendents happens to be Maureen Brummett, so that'll be nice. But it's a statewide webinar on social and emotional learning, how we supported our staff and students before and how we're doing it now. And I get to summarize that in 3 minutes. And then there'll be follow-up questions. But anyway, that's tomorrow from 4 to 5:30. I'll make sure I'll share the link with you again if you don't have it. And it's been shared with a lot of our teachers, I believe, across the district who can also join that. And finally, I want to just, I wanted to say that regarding my evaluation as superintendent this year, I'd spoken with Chairperson Tyrell a couple of weeks ago about, should I prepare something for this meeting? And there's already a ton of things on this agenda and there's a lot of moving parts right now. So it was agreed that, June, an executive session before the June meeting would be appropriate. And we can talk about, whether or not I earned the CAPE that I talked about at convocation and all the other pieces of the evaluation. That you'll start that process and you'll have your own conversations as well. But I'll prepare, I will prepare a summary of quite an interesting year for you, but one I'm proud of and proud of the work our team has done for the kids and for the families and for the community of Plainville. So that'll take place in June. Okay. And I think that is the end of my blockbuster report. I lost my voice. So thanks, Matt. Any questions at all on any of those items before we go on?
You have a Nurses Day acknowledgement? You see that on there?
I don't. Oh, you know what? I printed the old one, so it was Nurses Day, and it was Teacher Appreciation Day, and it was actually Principal Day on May 1st. And I did send out a message to the entire district of families and staff, thanking all of our principals for their amazing leadership. And it was Principal Appreciation Day on May 1st, as I said. I believe May 5th was the official. It was the Teacher Appreciation Week all last week, but the official day, I believe, was on the 5th. And then on the 6th, there was National School Nurses. And my sister would be, I hope she's not watching this on YouTube because I'll be in trouble. She was the School Nurse Teacher of the Year in Rhode Island this year. She was for the whole state. So I'm really proud of her. But our nurses do a tremendous job meeting so many needs of the district and of our kids. So I want to thank all of our amazing teachers, all of our amazing nurses, all of our amazing principals for their, and hopefully we acknowledge them appropriately. And the best things to acknowledge all of them was the amazing videos that the kids created with the parents and then sent to our staff. I just watched one for Wheeler before the board meeting tonight that I saw, and I saw others as well, and just really amazing. And then just, you know, the nice messages from families and parents to our teachers and nurses and principals that deserve it. So thank you to all of them. Thanks, Becky.
All right. Thank you. Are there any questions of the superintendent in his brief meeting? I'm glad you didn't have 3 minutes tonight.
Oh, need 3 hours.
I'm going to ask, so we don't forget about it, I'm going to ask that I think someone make a motion to add as item H under new business to approve the end of the year date of June 12th for the entire district. Would that be appropriate wording?
For the student school year to end on June 12th, and the staff will continue through June 17th.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we add item H to the new business agenda to change the school calendar for year 2019 to 2020 to closing date to June 12th for all students.
Mr. White made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Nicole, thank you. Second for Ms. Nicole. Is there any questions on this? We're basically just adding this as item H. So is there any questions on the addition? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. Any opposed? Thank you. So that brings us to our board subcommittee reports. I do not believe we have a student representative. Facilities did not meet.
Nope, no report.
Could I just say, we don't have a student representative, but Carl, we do have a new student representative that was elected, correct?
Yes, Catherine Gorko will be joining, and she'll be joining at the joint Bill of Ed meeting. We're right in AP season, and even with the closure, it's still going on. So they're both studying very hard tonight.
Yeah, we invited Allie too. So Allie and Ms. Guarco are both hard at work preparing for AP exams, but I know we'll be in good hands. So thank you. I'm sorry, I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Finance and facilities, we did not meet. I don't think anybody has a report or anything. Policy.
Yeah, that, no.
Curriculum, we definitely had a meeting, yes?
Yes.
Hi, Miss Kathy.
Hello. So on Wednesday, May 6th, we saw a presentation on the proposed new math curriculum for the elementary school level. The dedicated team of Tawana Graham Douglas, Wendy Bender, Alicia Adorato, and Kirsten Penner, as well as the input from teachers and administrators, investigated and reviewed several options. They visited other school districts and got input from the state level. They have chosen a program called Illustrative Math. It was described as rigorous, problem solving, and inquiry based, and we are confident this will be a great program for our students.
All right. We also did discuss a little bit about distance learning, and that's where part of the questions came up that actually drove Steve's really lengthy presentation that we asked him to make. So it was a good meeting. Thank you. Outreach has not met. There are no, I don't assume there's going to be no PAC reports or PTO reports. Anybody have anything to say on those? No?
I do have a Linden.
Okay, so how about we do this? Is there a high school report?
Not an official report, but I just want, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, sir.
No, I was just gonna say, I just wanted to commend the PAC because they are mobilizing to assist with our end of year plans for the class of 2020. And they're stepping up in ways that, you know, along with our project graduation group and the Backers Club, they're doing things that haven't been done before. So I just wanted to, you know, publicly give them a little commendation.
Foster, anything you want to add?
No, other than I did get a communique from Lynn Davis and Sue Bradley today. There is another fundraising event going on for banners and also photo signs for graduates. So I think there's going to be more on that. That's just another way to add to our support of the class of 2020.
Okay. Is there a Toflon report?
Yes, the yearbook committee has been working hard on getting the yearbook together. The deadline to order the yearbook is May 15th. They've incorporated some pictures from distance learning and the parades. And you can go to the PTO Facebook page to find out more about ordering that or to premiere photos. And also this year, they generally are able to kind of give treats to the teachers and the staff throughout the week. So they were sad they were not able to do that, but they were able to treat all the Toflon staff to Amazon gift cards for teacher staff appreciation. And they were also able to provide classroom and full-time teachers with in reading pairs with up to $50 in Scholastic books and supplies using Scholastic dollars. And their scholarship committee has been hard at work, and they put in their votes for the 2 $500 scholarships. And we did get the names today of the 2020 scholarship winners. And that will be Maggie Cronkite and Joseph and Alexis Ledko. And that's it.
Thank you. Is there a Linden report?
Yes. So the Linden PTO has still been busy. They sent out virtual gift cards to the Linden teachers and staff for Teacher Appreciation Week. Families were encouraged to send videos directly to the teachers. They're still working on having a book fair. It'll be a virtual book fair. They're working out the details on that. They are continuing to work on their yearbook, which will be free to all the 5th grade families. The next meeting, they're going to be electing new officers, which are probably going to be the same officers. And they wanted everyone to know that they're ready, willing, and able to help with any of the end of year festivities that can be done.
Is there a middle school report?
Yep. So the MSP PTC met virtually last Tuesday night. And most of the discussion during that meeting was plans for the 8th grade promotion of some sort instead of their usual dinner dance. And we will continue that discussion tomorrow night.
It was several weeks ago, but that's all right. Not unless they met without me last week.
Oh, April 21st.
I forgot also to mention, Crystal, that we're also probably going to put off our election for new officers until the fall, given that we really want to make sure we have some input from, you know, incoming elementary school folks who might want to be part of that. We'll talk more about that tomorrow night too.
Thank you. And is there a Wheeler report?
No, I'm sorry. I'm delinquent this time. I totally forgot.
We'll forgive you. But, you know, just goes to show what I know. I'm like, oh, there won't be any reports. Almost everybody has a report. The Correct Council has not met since we last met because we met late in the month last month rather. That brings me to the chairperson's report. Let's see. I just wanted you to know that every Friday at 2 o'clock, CABE has been having a board chair roundtable where they bring up different conversations about just different things that the districts are doing in this time, you know, and it has been really informative for me, probably making poor Mr. LePage's life a little harder, because then I start asking him some questions about other things. But it has been very informative. And, you know, this past week, they had a gentleman on who it was representing CCM, as well as he's the town manager, I believe in West Haven or something, one of the communities down that way. And his conversation was all about the importance of collaboration between Board of Education and your town, whether it's your town council or your Board of Selectmen or whatnot, because it's good to have a good relationship at all times, but it's in bad times to have a bad relationship really can make things much more difficult. So he was talking about, the importance of that relationship, and I can't help but think about, the fact that we are fortunate to have our budget pass as it did. And I thank the council and members of the council, as well as the town manager and superintendent, who worked really hard together as well. So, I think that's a positive thing for us, and it's going to help us moving forward. We know that there's going to be some unexpected things that are going to rise up next year, as far as reopening, because there's going to be some, there's going to be some issues that come up because of things that kids missed, and we know that. So we just need to be ready to be able to handle that. And so a budget like this, where we aren't having to figure out what to cut right from the get-go, really helps us make sure that we're going to be able to take care of kids next year. So I think that's really important. I wanted to offer my congratulations to the valedictorian, salutatorian. It was nice to have them be able to jump on here with us this evening with their families. I saw Mr. St. Lawrence sitting there alongside Crystal. And I also wanted to say, thank you to all our teachers and staff in recognition of Teacher Appreciation Week. And I know this has been a challenging year, as probably as no one would have ever predicted. Lastly, I'm going to say what I think I've been saying the past several months. I just have to give a big, shout out appreciation to our technology department, because almost everything we talk about, revolves around communication, revolves around our technology piece. And it's one of the reasons why we're where we are. We've all talked about the fact that previously we had the right support, to be able to get the technology, but there's a lot of people who have technology, but they don't have the right people, maybe, or the people that we have at least, in there supporting them. And that group, Kevin Ross and his team make a big difference for what we're able to do in our buildings. I believe that. So, all right, that's it for the chairperson's report. Unfinished business, I do not believe we have any. That brings us to new business. First thing is board open forum. Does anybody have anything they would like to say? Ask, go right.
So I would just like to say congratulations to Helena and Chris. I still see them as two little people at Linden Street School. They both were from Linden. So congratulations to them. Also, congratulations to all the everyday heroes that were listed, and all our staff and administrators and teachers and everyone that are doing a great job for our students. Let's see. And also, if you all drive around town, you might see some flamingos out there. I'm kind of spearheading the Project Grad Flamingo for Fun. We're kind of doing it for fun, just flocking seniors this year, just to get some of that fun flamingo stuff out there. So we're in the middle of that, and that'll be done in the next few weeks. We're doing a great job with that. And there's some happy families to have flamingos on their lawn, like usual. And I think that's it. So thank you.
Yeah, I would just like to extend thanks and appreciation to Ali Chambrello for her service as a student rep on the board, and just send her good wishes as she continues on with her education. And it's been a pleasure to have served with her on the board.
I'd like to point out they all went to the middle school.
Nice one. Anybody else?
I just had one quick thing. I don't know if everyone's on Facebook, but there's a group for Adopt a 2020 Senior in Connecticut. And basically parents or students whose parents don't have Facebook can nominate themselves to be adopted by somebody to make their senior year special. And I believe they're keeping it up for another couple weeks. And I adopted a Plainville grad, and it's really like you can do whatever you want. Like I send cards and bring them baked goods because that's what I do. And but you can send them presents or gift cards, whatever it is, and it just kind of helps make their senior year a little bit more special. So I wanted to let everyone know in case you didn't know about it, but I think it made the news because it's Connecticut wide. So so that's a really great thing. It makes you feel good doing something for somebody else.
Thank you, Nicole. Anybody else? All right. We'll move on. We do not have a special education report. I know Mr. Adlerstein is so sad this month, but we do have the turf committee report. Mr. Adlerstein?
Yeah, so there's a report in your packet. There's no action. I think the purpose of having this on the agenda is so you stay on top of it, because somewhere, sometime down the road, there's going to be a significant expense related to the turf committee. The resurfacing estimate that we have is about $500,000 for the main field, $200,000 for the softball field. And that's very rough, but just a number in your head. Toward that, the turf fund currently has $99,501. And what we really have been doing now, again, no action, but just making sure we're staying on top of our good practice. And so we got together with the partner organizations in April and just went over their contributions and our processes related to that. They wanted to talk about maintenance. We talked about maintaining the fields a little bit, but just staying on top of our good practice. Next year we'll have I think the signs on the field are renewed every 3 years, and so that comes up next year. But really, the only thing in the immediate term on the radar screen is that, and then the partner organizations using the field, and a little bit of rentals coming in. Any questions?
Are there any questions about the turf field report? When you say partner organizations, it's basically the people listed on that document that are participating and would be paying into the fund, yes?
Right, it's Little League, football, and soccer.
I think this is I appreciate this information. I know Mr. Davenport had asked about it and kind of, reminded me that eventually there's going to be a pretty big expense. So we want to make sure that we are keeping tabs on that and have something towards it when the time does come. So I appreciate that. So the next item is the request for approval to add a middle school resource officer position. So can we get a motion for that, and then we can have a discussion?
Madam Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we request approval for the addition of a school resource officer at the middle school of Plainville, with the understanding that funding would be made available.
Got a motion? Can I get a second?
Second.
Who was that? Somebody
Brent, right?
Okay, Crystal second. Is there any questions or conversation or anything on this one?
I only have one question, Steve. I believe that currently Officer Martins, when school is not in session, especially in the summertime, that she does do other police work as a traffic control person or something else like that. So would not also the same person at the middle school also be available to Chief Catania for other work, almost on a half-time basis?
Yes, well, the expectation for the SROs is that they also take any vacation time allowable to them on off school time. So that'd be some of the summer, but yes, there's definitely time where the SRO is available to the general public for things like traffic enforcement and other just regular police enforcement work. So, that's something that, going forward, when it's part of the budget, I would say it would make sense to have at least some sort of a ratio with the shared services model. But I would say, if the insurance does pan out the way we expect, and I also I don't want to make my report any longer, but there's a lot of talk about the CARES Act and what that's going to bring potentially to the boards of education around the state. And tentatively, the number that is out there right now for Plainville, I think, is $361,000 that would go to Title I. So that's another, Becky had mentioned a lot of expenses of transitioning and technology support and remediation for kids who need extra help and extra support and extra special needs, support and things of that nature. Whatever we decide that money, there's 12 different areas you can use it for. It's pretty wide open as far as what you can use it for. So, between that and then hopefully some savings in the insurance line, I feel comfortable with this year, given I know the value of an SRO and putting it into the, covering it with the Board of Ed budget. I think it's the right way to go. So, but Foster, that's a good point.
Yeah, I agree. I think this at the middle school, it definitely is going to be a real plus.
Any other questions or comments here?
I just have a question. Do you think that we would have one ready for the beginning of school, or what's the timing?
Yes, I do. That question was asked of Chief Catania by this group and by Council Chair Puglisi, and he said that the training could be done, and that they would be ready to go for the start of the year. And there are a couple of officers that I wouldn't say they're being groomed, but they're well suited for that position. You have to be a certain personality and good with kids and approachable and but also know the line and Chief Catania is very confident that he would be able to fill it with someone really good for the start of the year. Good question.
Okay, thanks.
If there are no further questions, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passed. Mrs. LeGoik has become either sunflowers or brown-eyed Susans. I can't tell which that is. So the next item we have is a request for approval of the vision of the graduate qualities as was explained to us, was discussed earlier by Mr. Johnson. So can we get a motion for that?
Madam Chair, motion to approve vision of the graduate qualities is presented by Carl Johnson.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Davenport, second. Any conversations, questions, anything there? Seeing none, all in favor, please vote by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
I'm gonna abstain because I missed that. I got on late, so I'll abstain.
And abstentions by Nicole. Okay, thank you. All right, that brings us to the request for approval of the Innovation in Education Grant Award. Can I get a motion for that?
Could I make a motion for the request approval of the Innovation in Education Grant Award?
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Davenport seconded there. All right, anything on that? Any questions or comments? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. The next thing we have is a request for approval for the Connecticut Institute of the Blind rental agreement. Let's get a motion and then maybe Sam wants to make a few comments. Somebody want to make a motion for me? Nobody wants to make a motion?
Motion to approve the Innovation Education Grant Award.
No, that's not the one.
We just
We're on
did that
D.
one.
If
Next
someone
one.
wants, it's to authorize the Director of Business and Operations to enter into a one-year contract with Oak Hill Academy for the use of space at the middle school of Plainville.
Somebody want to just say, do that?
So moved.
So moved.
Oh, there's Brent. Thank you, Brent. You saved me. Is there a second?
Second.
Crystal's got a second. All right. Sam, you want to have say anything about this? I know there was a little bit of verbiage there.
There's nothing new. It's the same space. It's pretty much and it's the same lease terms. The only difference is a 2% increase, which is typically, it's what we do every year. So I don't have a lot to add. The only difference this year is we often have made contact and just confirmed the agreement with Oak Hill before we bring it to you. This year, I haven't gotten a reply yet. I think probably because of the situation we're all in. But I have no reason to believe that they won't go through with it the way they do every year.
So as long as everything works, we're basically giving you the approval to move ahead with that in this particular situation.
Exactly.
Any questions on that? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, great. And item H, which was?
Madam Chair, motion to approve that school ends for all students effective June 12th.
Okay, thank you. I forgot what it was we had.
Mhm.
It's a long day. So we have a motion by Ms. Martinez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Second on Mr. Davenport. Have any questions or comments here?
Good to go.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank
That
you.
brings us to the consent agenda. If no one has anything to remove from the consent agenda to discuss, we can have a motion for the consent agenda.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 All right, any opposed? All right, awesome. Now our most favorite, the adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
At least we don't have to drive home, right?
Second.
You just roll right into bed.
Seconded that, Becky.
Steve, are you there?
Yes.
Did you want to approve the math?
Oh,
Did you want to add that in?
yeah, that should have been added in. I'm sorry.
What do we do?
We didn't add approval of the illustrative math program to the new business somehow.
Right, well, make a motion to add it to new business and then we'll approve it.
Sorry about that.
So I need a motion to add illustrative math. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yep.
To, well, yeah, we would make it HGHI.
Motion,
New business.
motion to add illustrative math as item I under new business.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Brent. Okay, so this is the item this is the math proposal that we talked about in the curriculum committee.
Correct.
I know most of us, a good percentage of us were there for curriculum. Is there any questions on it? All right, seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 And anybody opposed? And I will ask for abstentions because I know several of you might not have gotten as much information. If somebody's not comfortable, they can abstain. No? Okay, awesome. Now adjournment. Let's, Cole, you're going to make a motion?
I motion to adjourn.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Brent. All right. Thank you, Joan, for saving us. But
Thank you, Joan. Appreciate it.
all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you all for all the information, for everybody who attended. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.